Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a deeply fragmented, honestly kinda chaotic, poetic text that maps out a really raw human experience. We're gonna follow a graduate engineer's incredibly rapid descent into the sprawling, overwhelming city of Mumbai. But more importantly, we're going to look at the profound psychological anchor that keeps this person grounded through the absolute madness. It's a story of shattered expectations, intense disorientation, and a pretty desperate search for salvation. So, let's dive right in.
Now, before we trace this narrator's downward spiral, we got to establish their baseline. Throughout this entire text, there's a specific four-line stanza that just keeps repeating itself, almost like a heartbeat. My love is truth. My love is acting. I live or die. Christ made me wise. This recurring mantra acts as the speaker's spiritual lifeboat. As you'll see, it contrasts so sharply with the surreal, physical chaos of the rest of the text. Keep these exact words in the back of your mind because they are literally the structural framework holding this narrator's fractured reality together.
All right, let's look at Section 1, The Lie of Mumbai, a false start.
You know, every descent has a catalyst, right? That one starting point where the floor just gives way. For our narrator, this journey kicks off with a massive betrayal. The text opens immediately with the lines, "She rang me, called to Mumbai. When I gave the interview, it was a lie." The speaker is lured to this massive city under the guise of a huge opportunity, only to discover that the entire premise was completely fabricated. This single, crushing moment of deception pulls the trigger on the downward spiral.
Moving right along to Section 2, Graduate on the Street, Identity Lost.
The immediate fallout from this lie is a rapid stripping away of his professional identity. I mean, talk about whiplash. The text explicitly refers to him as a graduate engineer on the street, searching for job. Think about the weight and education that title carries. Yet it's instantly reduced to a desperate pavement-pounding search. And the timeline just accelerates from there, leading to him drinking alcohol, auto or bus, has a bottle of beer. The educated professional is now totally aimless, drinking while in transit, moving without a destination. The speed of this identity loss is just staggering.
Next up, Section 3, Scripts and the Beer Bar, a clash of realities. So here's where things get super intense, building into this dramatic clash between the narrator's harsh physical reality and their internal ambition. The text drops us right into a surreal scene. Anti-Corruption Bureau officer in the beer bar. I was writing a script, motivating my future. Physically, he's self-destructing, but mentally, he's desperately trying to manifest a way out through art. Even while completely surrounded by chaos, his mind is fighting for a future. It's a powerful image of survival against extreme odds.
The pacing right here feels incredibly urgent, almost breathless. He tells us 6 bottles of alcohol, cut in my hand, searched for first aid kit, and my soul was in tears. The physical injury, a cut hand needing a band-aid, is a direct, almost ironic mirror to his internal emotional trauma. The first aid isn't really for the hand, is it? It's a completely futile attempt to patch up a weeping soul.
Okay, let's hit Section 4, Gangsters, Tests in Jail, a surreal test. At this point, the imagery becomes so erratic that we literally have to question reality. The speaker stops treating this like just a bad break and instead declares, "What a behavioral test, it was a time waste." It really makes you wonder, are we reading a literal physical journey through the streets of Mumbai, or are we witnessing a total psychological breaking point framed as this paranoid test of endurance?
The fragmented images he gives us reveal complete disorientation. Listen to this. They projected a lady. In the beach, she was crazy, fucking hard, thinking smart, gangster of Mumbai in my eyes. The line between the actual external threats of the city and the internal reflections he's seeing in the mirror has completely blurred. It's pure survival mode.
And then, this chaotic phase crashes into a sudden, jarring amnesia. He tells us, like a dream I forgot, went to jail and said my God. The trauma is so severe that the conscious mind just drops it. But the physical consequences are very real, leading right to a jail cell. The descent is complete. Stripped of a job, stripped of sobriety, stripped of freedom, he's left with nothing but his faith.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, The Anchor of Faith, a stabilizing force.
Despite this entire traumatic descent through the deception, the alcohol, the injury, the jail cell, the narrator doesn't actually completely collapse. And the number 6 is the key here.
That specific stanza we looked at the very beginning, "My love is truth, my love is acting, I live or die, Christ made me wise," is repeated exactly 6 times throughout the source material. It is embedded directly into the structure of his experience. It's his ultimate psychological anchor. Whenever the chaos peaks, the text just hits a hard reset back to this exact verse.
If we break it down, every single line of that repetitive mantra directly counters a specific trauma he experienced. When Mumbai handed him a total lie, he anchored himself by declaring, "My love is truth." When he's bleeding in a bar, he says, "My love is acting," directly tying back to his desperate attempt to write that script and save his future. "I live or die" is absolute acceptance of the crazy stakes he's dealing with. And finally, "Christ made me wise" points to finding spiritual salvation and clarity when nothing around him makes logical sense.
We've seen how a graduate engineer's life totally unraveled into a surreal, agonizing, behavioral test, all because of a single lie, and how a repeating, almost desperate chant of truth, art, and faith served as his literal lifeline. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. In the face of profound disillusionment, when your reality feels entirely like a trap, what is the anchor that you would cling to for survival? What is the absolute truth that keeps your soul wise? Thanks so much for joining me to explore this text today.